Time is on my side.
That's not very convincing.
I didn't think I could do justice to the Rolling Stones, but oops. Y'all didn't hear any of that, did you? Probably better off for it. I tried a rendition of Rolling Stones' Time is on my side.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is, with my sinusy congestion here, which we hope will not be a problem for us here this afternoon. As we get started with another episode of Sweet Jesus, taste and see that the Lord is good. Ice cream is sweet. Jesus is sweeter. Taking a look at chapter 5 of our book here. Available equals allocation. That's what we're talking about, allocation. And time, is it on our side? I don't know. Seems like it's kind of working against us. There's a finite amount of it. But I guess the point of the chapter, and maybe this is a bad way to talk about it, is if mission is the main thing and we're focused on the main thing, then we're going to put time on our side by allocating time to the mission. Is that a fair nutshell?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
One of the notes I'd scribbled was, we need to reschedule our lives, or look at the schedule and find time.
Yeah.
That might be already available, I guess.
The mission, if it's as important as we think it is, or if it's as important as God says it is, then we will dedicate at least a portion of our most precious resource to the mission. So I don't know what the point of that song is. I just know the chorus there. Like, what does he mean time is on his side? It's not really on our side. I mean, we have a finite amount of it. And as long as we have it, it's good. But as soon as our time is up, our time is up.
There's a saying that says, when you realize you have less time going forward than you've already lived, you realize how valuable it is.
I guess I'm probably about there, unless I live to be 91.
Yeah, I don't know if, I guess we're allocated up to 120.
Possibly.
But we don't all make it there. And I don't know if I really want to.
There aren't
if I can be
many.
like certain people, maybe, but others, no.
Yeah, the odds of either one of us making it to 120 are pretty low.
Yeah.
But that's the only finite resource. The money, you can make more money. You can find more other stuff, or find a way to use other stuff instead of that scarce resource. But you can't manufacture time. And so if you're going to be about God's mission, you're going to dedicate some of that precious resource, especially given the fact that it takes time to invest in people and develop relationships, which we'll get to once we get past the A to the R. But time is everything. And, we have our 4 kids, one of them getting very close to graduating high school, moving on, and you start to realize, like, how precious all the previous time was. Like, you can't even spend the time now. Like, you're seeing it slip away, and yet there's all these things that are now competing for that time, and it's just like, well, I'm going to try and make the most of what I can, but this is now the trajectory. It's already...
It's slipping away.
Yes. Exactly.
The harder you squeeze, the
Mhm.
hold on, the
Yep.
faster it gets out.
That's right. That's a good way of thinking about it. So time is a finite resource, and that's what the chapter is really about. How do we allocate time? First, that we have to, and then how do you actually go about doing that? Jesus invested a lot of time in the lost. I mean, he spent his entire life here on earth. He left heaven to come here and invested 33 years in human beings on earth. And 3 of those years were focused on the mission and dedicated in like a regular daily kind of, this is what they're doing day in and day out, investing in his disciples, but then also with them and through them, others. And I think the first question really is, it's time, but it's time with people that are not Christians. And I know this is just such a common issue for Christians, is that a lot of times we have a lot of Christians around us. And so investing time in non-Christians is somewhat unnatural, not unnatural, but it doesn't just happen, right? We'll talk more about that in the R part, relational part, but it doesn't just happen. And especially me, like, if anyone understands this, it's me. I'm a pastor. Who do I hang out with? Christians. Why? Because I'm a pastor. I'm at church, or I'm doing things for church or with other churches and other pastors. And so you spend a lot of time with people that already go to church. Again, why I repeatedly tell people, like, hey, you think it's about me doing it? Like, no, you, not your pastor, you have to be engaged in mission if you really want to help your congregation reach the lost. That's not to say a pastor shouldn't model it, shouldn't be making every effort to do the same thing and be an example and all that. It's just to say, holy cow, you're thinking about this as being difficult because you're surrounded by so many Christians. Think about how much harder it is for the pastor. And then when you're a pastor and you go out and you try to be with non-Christians, and then, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a pastor. Like, you just ruined it. It just makes it weird. But you could say, I'm a computer programmer, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a lawyer, engineer, a welder, a plumber, okay, that's sort of a general non-threatening kind of thing. But I got to lead with, I'm a pastor. There goes that friendship.
Say you're a motivational speaker.
My name is Matt Foley, and I am a motivational speaker. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, I guess I could go with that, but I'm a demotivational speaker.
Okay.
That's the evil part. Motivational speaker. All right, we'll move on. So we need to find time.
I'm stuck on the Matt Foley thing.
Live in a van down by the river. Yeah. You don't want to live in a van down by the river. So time with non-Christians. So we'll talk more about specifically finding ways to spend time with non-Christians and the difficulties that presents. But for now, it's just to say, what are you going to do to allocate it? A lot of people, hey, this is what we give to our church. This is what we give to other charities. The idea is like a first fruits sort of, I got paid, here's what goes out to, proportional giving to these ministries we support. What about our time? We talk about time, talent, treasure. Are we investing the time? And I think some people give up on, or they sacrifice money or financial giving under the guise of, well, I'll just give my time, like as if it's an either or type thing. Well, the reverse is also true. Like sometimes people give money and then say, well, I gave enough money. I gave at the office, like I don't have to spend time. I give money so that I don't have to spend any time at church. Like
Time is money, right?
time is money. There you go. I think there is that mentality, but the truth is that God has given you your time, your talents, and your treasure. They are His, not yours. You are on top of the grass because He has kept you on top of the grass. And so what are you going to do with the time? So a challenge, of course, is, you look at this kind of idea and you say, okay, all right, so I'm going to give my time. How do I squeeze it in? And there's this idea that we have here in the book, this, the and idea. Your boss comes in, you've got 6 projects you're working on, and he says, hey, and I need you to do this too. This is really important. It needs a lot of attention. They give you number 7. They don't take anything else away. They just add. Right? And then what happens is there are other things that don't get as much attention, or the new project maybe gets some attention, but it doesn't really get your full attention. And so they all suffer. So the idea ultimately is not so much that we add something, because that just, you'll hate it, first of all, because now it's this another thing you have to do. But you also won't do a very good job at mission. It won't be very much time, and you won't do a very good job. So really the key is like trying to find things first and foremost that you can take off. Like, here's some things I'm going to stop doing to free up time. He has this, this is a story of Bruce. He's from the Midwest. I'm not, so you probably pick up on that. But apparently he spent a year in Rhode Island, and there's a lot of sailing going on there. And so he learned this reality of boat ownership and barnacles. Did you like that story? Yeah,
it's very great metaphor.
Yeah, very visual kind of. And so the idea is like a boat being out in the water just collects barnacles. Like it just does. And you don't even know that they sort of happen, but they cling to the boat. And then over time, it adds up, and you can actually reduce the speed of your boat by like half just because of all these little barnacles that are now attached. So every season, you got to get it out of the water, scrape off the barnacles, maybe even more often than just once a season, but you got to get them off so that the boat can actually cut through the water instead of dragging these monsters. I mean, they're like little monsters. I mean, they just like, what do they even do? Like, I don't know. They're just
little, crustacean-like things or something. I'm not sure what they're classified as, but and they can be really sharp.
Yeah, I've cut my feet on barnacles before.
Yeah,
I'm sure plenty of people have. But these things, they add up over time, and my buddy Bruce coined the term time barnacles because that's the way our schedules are. These things that just kind of keep adding on to our schedules. The and idea. Oh, here's a great thing I'd love to do. I'm going to just add it. And then before you realize it, you've got all these things, and it's just dragging you down. You're moving at half the speed. You just got too much. And so the first encouragement is really find things that you can cut out. He talked about this idea of, like I think it was college football, maybe just football in general, where from like Thursday to Monday. Yeah. In prior years, I've caught myself watching college and pro football games, plus the game analysis shows for 20 to 24 hours between Thursday and Monday. That's a lot of time, right?
Yeah, I used to watch all of those. I can't say I don't know if it was that much time, but yeah. Then you watch the post-game shows.
The pregame, the postgame, the game, right? So he estimated 20 to 24 hours. And then he says, was I a less fulfilled person when I gave up half of it and used the time to bless a few folks? Would I be a poorer person if I gave up all of it, a sacrifice for me, and instead used the time for others, figuring out how I could be Jesus to them? Is it possible? How could I make that happen? And you, how could you make your screen time less? Well, that's another topic we'll get into. But just this idea that there are some things that we could probably cut out. And if we don't cut it out, if we just try to add this, we will more than likely, far more than likely, fail. So,
and just a hint, pre-game shows are almost always wrong.
yes.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so if you can maybe,
But isn't that the fun of it? Like, you want to see these guys make these bold predictions and then see how they come out later acting all like, yeah, well, you know.
oh, they just discard it like they never said it.
Never said it, yeah.
Yeah, they don't refer back to, oh, well, and I said before in the pregame. No.
Unless they were right, which,
Yeah, right.
as I said before, you know,
Right.
24-17, and that's what we got. So, yeah, no, it is kind of silliness, some of the things. And, you know, football, it's not wrong to watch sports, but if it's like everything, like your team is not playing Thursday through Monday. You know, that's Thursday night football. That's, you know, the college football weekend, and then Sunday NFL, and then Monday night football. Like, that's the whole shebang. If you put all of that together, you just absolutely consumed with it. Man, there's got to be some time left.
Well, our schedules are also not like a soccer match.
Not like a soccer match? What do you mean?
Right, because it's 45-minute halves.
Oh, extra time.
Yep, stoppage time.
Yeah, just because you stop doesn't mean the clock just
Stops. The clock keeps rolling,
Yeah.
and then there's a official that can add time back. And I guess God could add time back, but we don't get that number.
Yeah, we don't know.
to our clock what it's going to be.
We don't know what that is. Yeah, that's not how it works.
So yeah, you can't do that either. Like,
We have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 168 hours a week. That's all we got. You know, I mean, I wish I had 28 hours a day. I wish I had 30. You know, I'd probably just sleep a little longer. Maybe.
there's a lot of distractions that we have. When you look back at, previous times when they built these amazing monuments or churches and all the artwork and carving, and it's just amazing. But, they didn't have a sports show that they could watch the pregame, the game, and the postgame. This is what they did,
Mm-hmm.
They dedicated themselves to it. So
They read books. They developed skills and hobbies, and, here we are becoming dumber and less useful.
did Jesus have a pregame before he went out with the disciples? Okay, today, guys, let's get together in a huddle.
Yeah, no, that just did it.
This is what I think is going to happen. Of course, he could be 100% accurate.
Well, and then the pregame, if we're talking like pre-gaming for a party or something, I mean, there was that wedding at Cana. I mean, the pregame was the first part, and then the 180 gallons of wine after that.
Yeah.
So maybe he did pregame. No, that's, yeah. But that's one example. And then another example is like if we're going to think and let's think in a different way about it. So not I'm going to add this to my schedule, so I'll do this and I'll do mission. It's how might I incorporate mission into something I am already doing. So, what page was that on? First, is it possible to do your passion with others? On page 31. Notably, with people who need Jesus. Get a workout partner. Walk your dog when others are out. Talk to other parents when attending an event your child is in. Loop in with others who have the same hobby. Dine with others. So that's one way of thinking about it. And I'll probably use this again when we get to the R. But I remember leaving the YMCA where we lived in Ohio. And they had this card, like a postcard advertising a St. Patrick's Day 5K, something like that. And I went, oh, you know what? When I talk to people about running, I don't really run anymore. My body is not handling it very well, so I swim when I can and I do some other things. But at the time, I'm thinking running, man, yeah, I talk to people about running all the time, and a lot of times their eyes just glaze right over, like, what is wrong with you? Why do you enjoy punishing yourself like this? And, dude, I am not that interested in running. You have, obsessed about this way too much. But here's a 5K. I bet there are people there that would like to talk about running. They're runners. Not all of them, maybe. Some of them are just there to stay fit, exercise, lose a few pounds. But I bet there are people there that also love running, and I could talk to them. But the other piece is I bet there are some people there that love running and don't know Jesus. Right? So that's where, you just think about what you already do in a new way. You incorporate an aspect to it that maybe you hadn't thought of before. You hadn't been intentional about. So that's one way. But beyond this, it's possible to scale back on your passion, a sacrifice in order to have time to pursue God's mission, and that's where the football stuff came in. Of course, there's also these handy-dandy devices that find a way to be very useful, like, oh, look, I have text message, and I have emails, and, I should get back to those people, and you do that, and then all of a sudden there's 15 other things that consume your attention that are not really important and aren't actually being productive. It's just you staring at the screen or going, oh, look at that idiot who, fell off his...
Got flipped in the air by a buffalo.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah. Oh, a cat video. Look at this cat. Look at how cute. Or look at how crazy. Or
yeah, I felt sorry for that guy. I don't know how old he was, but he looked a little older and less mobile, and I don't think he really intentionally incited the buffalo to flip him in the air. But
no.
I have seen some where, they're out there doing stupid things like, oh, look, there's a buffalo. Let me take a selfie.
Yeah, 8 feet away from the buffalo.
Yeah, that's you get what you deserve.
Those are idiots. Yeah. Well, the buffalo had charged his grandson or something, I think. He was sort of trying to get the attention away from the kid, I think, is how that went down. Recent one, at least. But these are wonderfully amazing things that also just absolutely destroy our attention and consume our time.
And that's true, but before that, there was television, so.
Yeah, there's always something.
How many hours have I wasted in my life watching
TV, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he says, we got here in the book, page 32, a second time freeing opportunity is your time with devices. I'll wager that as you look at your calendar, you haven't scheduled 7 hours a day, 7 days a week for screen time. But for ages 16 to 64, about 7 hours per day is average apart from work. We love our phones, tablets, computers, TVs, and gaming systems. So that's all screen time, which includes like TV. And before these, there was the TV, but I don't think we were quite that high on the...
Well, you had to be somewhere where there was one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't just carry it in your pocket. Well, this gives you the ability to carry the television experience.
Everything with you in the pocket, which also ruins your ability while you're out to interact with people that don't know Jesus. Because you're just... And so are they. It's kind of a sad situation, really. But, yeah, so time. We got to think about time. We got to get rid of this idea of and, like I'll just add it on, but think of it and like I will do my normal things and passions and whatever, and I will be cognizant of how those things can be entry points for interacting with the lost. But if you don't, there's this, the idea of quality versus quantity time, like parenting and stuff.
I was just going to say, so why do we feel like we have to give our time to other people? I mean, it's our time, right? Our resources.
Is it?
I don't know.
It's God's time. It's all His. Our life is His. I mean, this is one of the things that people that reject Christianity, reject the idea of a God, they miss out on this point that, well, I'm a good person sort of thing. And no, you're not. Right? We know that. We've talked about that endlessly. But also from this standpoint that you as a human are very, very likely, especially if you've rejected God, it's clear, but we all do it. You reject the idea of God and then take ownership of your life and, this is my life. Bon Jovi, right? Like, it's my life. So, no, it's not your life. And it's like, what do you call it when somebody takes credit for someone else's work?
Plagiarism.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, there's other things, copyright infringement for other people's intellectual property, but plagiarism is the idea, right? And if you're saying that your life is your own, which is what you're saying when, it's my time, it's my money, it's my talents, it's all these things. I don't need to use them for God. That's plagiarism. You're taking credit for what the story God is writing. You're trying to take the pen out of His hand and write it yourself. But really, it's a character that He created, not you. So, no, it's not your time. No, it's not your talents. No, it's not your money. No, it's not all these other things. It's God's. And so just rejecting God is the ultimate sin in that sense, right? Like, oh, I'm a good person. I haven't harmed anybody. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. Yeah, but you've rejected God. You're standing on your own merit, which isn't all you think it is. Right? If we really were to dig in on it. But at the very least, we can admit that your statement is you're plagiarizing your life. You're taking ownership for it. So, it's God's time. It's God's money. And if we refuse to give him what's rightly his, then we are no different from the person who is saying, I fundamentally reject the premise of God or Christianity or anything like that. We're no different. Does that make sense?
Yes. So it's freely given.
I was like, okay, when is he going to bring this up? So tell me about that. You had this question. Where's the verse? There's a verse that comes up. It's referenced on.
Yeah, I'm kind of a little skeptical these days, or if that's the right term. When I see one small verse used, I'm very heightened to, is this taken out of context?
Of course it is.
So
Always. Often.
So Jesus says to his followers, freely you have received, freely give. And that's Matthew 10:8. So I didn't get a chance to look it up to see the context of Matthew 10:8.
What page was this on?
This is on, it's actually on 26, the first.
Oh, wow. The resources God has given us are our time, talent, and treasure. God gives these to meet not only our own needs, but to be a blessing to others. Jesus says to his followers, freely you have received, freely give. Yeah, so what's the context? Well, this is Jesus sending out the apostles. It actually kind of starts at the end of chapter 9. Jesus went through all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom, healing every disease, every affliction. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his vineyard. And then chapter 10, verse 1, and he called to him his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal every disease and every affliction. The names of the 12 apostles are these, so he goes through names all of them. These 12 Jesus sent out, instructing them, go nowhere among the Gentiles, enter no town of the Samaritans, go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, proclaim as you go, saying the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse lepers, cast out demons. You have received without paying, give without pay. Freely you have received, freely give. That's what that was. Acquire no gold, no silver, nor copper for your belts, no bag for your journey, nor 2 tunics, nor sandals, nor a staff, for the laborer deserves his food. And whatever town or village you enter, find out who is worthy in it, and stay there until you depart. As you enter the house, greet it, and if the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it, but if it is not worthy, let your peace return to you. And if anyone will not receive you or listen to your words, shake off the dust from your feet when you leave that house or town. Truly I say to you, it will be more bearable on the day of judgment for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah than for that town. Behold, I'm sending you out as sheep among wolves. Right, and he keeps talking, and it's sort of a pep talk, but it's also instruction.
Check.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what you're going to find. But I think the general principle, it's not exactly taken out of context. It's related to mission, God's mission. It's also this principle of God is given, now you give. Right? I think that's a common principle throughout Scripture, that blessed to be a blessing. Abraham, is promised to be blessed, and through Abraham, all the nations of the earth will be blessed, which is ultimately pointing to Jesus, right? Offspring, one, not offsprings like the many. And that one offspring is Jesus. Through Jesus, all the nations of the earth are blessed. But is that enough context? What were you kind of thinking of when you thought that? What were you suspicious of? Anything specific?
No, but if you pluck that one little phrase out and don't understand the whole thing, it's like it just can be used to say, oh, well, you need to do this because you were given, if something was given to you freely, then you need to share freely. But if that's, if it's not in the context that you said, it could be just somebody twisting the words or whatever. That's all I was just concerned about.
Yeah.
Nothing specific, just.
I mean, most scripture passages are taken out of context when they're repeated.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and that's not to say that there isn't some truth there. But, you know, maybe not the whole truth, not the main point. It's back to that Matthew 18 thing, where 2 or 3 are gathered.
Oh, right.
We talked about that sometime recently. I don't know. But, yeah, that's the encouragement here is you've been given this time. What are you going to do with it? And the reality is that our time is actually very, very short. That's the here, now, me stuff from the original availability chapter. You know, we don't know how long we got. We were actually just talking about this, right? You're sharing, this was somebody from high school you knew or whatever. Somebody just died pretty young,
Right.
unexpectedly, and not sure about the spirituality of that person. So there are people around us all the time. You don't know how long you've got, and what if just you investing a few hours a week, carving it out very intentionally and saying, I'm going to be about mission. I'm going to make sure I spend time thinking about mission. I'm going to spend some time thinking about where I can fit it into my schedule, where I can make something I'm already doing more mission-oriented or cut some things out that will give me the time to be available for mission. If we're not doing that, then we're not going to invest the time. If we're not investing the time, somebody else's time is going to be cut short and will not have the great hope of the gospel.
That whole context that you just read for that previous verse, though, is basically could be the theme for this book itself, right? Because he went through the whole, you were giving it, you should give it. This is where you should go. This is where you shouldn't go. And when you go there, you should do this. And then when you leave, you should do. There was a whole instructions, and there were what to expect. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily a 1-to-1. Because always being sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, does that mean we only go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel? No, it's for everybody now. So there are some things that have changed that are unique, but certainly the idea of like shaking the dust off your feet, going where you're welcomed, and not pushing it with places that don't receive you or your peace, right? And for sure, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few, right? It is true. There are just very few people that are actually willing to labor, but there's plenty of opportunity. It's just not here. It's not inside the comfort of our own facility, our own campus. It's out there. And if we'd be willing to do that kind of thing, we might see more of the fruit of that harvest. Maybe it wouldn't look like what we think it is. Maybe it wouldn't all be directed back to an institution, an organization. But you got to think at least some of it would be, and but then even here in verse 15 in chapter 10, truly I say to you, it would be more bearable in the day of judgment for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah than for that town, right? There is a judgment. Maybe you and I are not called to judge in this way, but certainly be judging and discerning and all that. But there is a judgment. And that is the bad news that ultimately makes the good news as sweet as it is that, hey, there is this thing coming, but you can escape it unscathed. You can make it through that judgment only with Jesus. But Jesus offers himself freely. So that's the good news, right? But there is a judgment. And I think more and more we have kind of glossed over that for a variety of reasons. Number one is like, well, if we just convince ourselves that, there's all these paths and it'll work out, that just lets us off the hook. And I don't think that's scriptural. I don't think it's borne out in reality either. I don't think that logically, it would take some serious logical inconsistencies to believe that. I mean, Christianity, first and foremost, is unique among the religions in what it actually promises. No other religion really promises the kind of hope that we have. So it can't possibly be the same as everything else. And it's very clear within the Bible that there's an in and an out, saved and not saved, lost and found, and they need the good news.
Yeah, one of the arguments or questions that you hear from people is that, well, what about those people that live, on some remote island or really anywhere? They don't even have to be on a remote island anymore. They're, like you said, where they're around you, every day, but they don't know anything about Christianity, about Jesus or anything like that. So, but they mostly live a good life, or so it appears. And so then that's the question, right? So it's like, so God wouldn't do that. What kind of God is there that would say no? Those people can't come to heaven if whatever. But in this case, he's like, if you're that concerned about it, if you're concerned about these people,
do something about it.
Yeah.
They
use it as an excuse not to believe it.
Well,
but at the same time, if you believe, but with a kind of a foot in the door saying, well, yeah, but, well then, yeah, do something about it, I guess.
Yeah, then they don't have to do something about it. Oh, God's got it worked out. He'll figure it out. I'm not going there. Why? Because you'll probably die. This is a story of the Elliots. Elizabeth Elliot's husband. What was his first name? John? Maybe? I don't know. Anyway, so they were intending to go to this remote tribe somewhere in South America. And they worked very hard for a period of weeks to right on the edge of the territory, and they gave them all kinds of gifts and everything. And, then there was something went wrong. Somebody said something that wasn't right, that I think it was like a kid who supposedly basically lied about what was happening with him and some girl, because it was taboo for him to be anywhere alone with this girl. So like, oh, she wasn't with me, she was with them. And, so then they killed these three guys that had been, I think, landing there in a plane or something, drop off goods, and then they'd take off and leave. And that was not good. But there's a follow-up to that where his wife, the wives of those men, do actually go back and serve them and continue to serve them, and are actually brought in somewhat to the tribe. And so much so that one of the leaders of the tribe, or the kid or grandson of the leader of the tribe, they actually go around with the unborn child of the Elliot couple. I think he is born eventually after his dad is killed, and he goes around with this other guy from the tribe, and they talk about this, healing and restoration and forgiveness and all that kind of stuff. So really, there's some great stuff that happens, but are you willing to be killed for it? And second of all, why is it that these places are where they are or don't have the gospel? I mean, because they've rejected it, and there are consequences for our decisions and our actions, right? So like if I make some really bad choice that pushes away all of the Christians, then that keeps me and my descendants from getting the benefits of the message, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is some language in Scripture about, how does it go? It's steadfast love and mercy to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. And what is it? To the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me, something. I forget how it goes. But it's bad. Like, why don't they know? Why aren't they hearing about it? Well, maybe they did. Maybe some of them did, but somebody cut it off in the process along the line somewhere. Like, that's not for you or me to try to sort through. All we know is that people are saved by faith in Jesus Christ, the forgiveness of sins that comes through faith in Jesus Christ, and the hope of resurrection, right? That's how it happens. And then if this is then Romans 10. Rather than me butcher the paraphrase, how then will they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how are they to believe in him of whom they have never heard? And how are they to hear without someone preaching? And how are they to preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news. So, and then, but they have not all obeyed the gospel, for Isaiah says, Lord, who has believed what he has heard from us? So faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. So that's how it works. That's what we know. Why not? I don't know. But the idea that all paths are valid paths is just as tyrannical an idea, just as exclusive of an idea as saying, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me, Jesus, right? So there's this problem with exclusive truths because it leaves people out. But the truth is that truth also leaves people out. It's a claim of exclusivity. It's you're saying that don't be so exclusive. Everybody is basically good. Everyone's basically okay as long as they sincerely believe what they believe, right? So you can't pressure anybody to believe what you believe. But then they go around and shame people like us who would say, but Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No. They are doing the oppressive thing that they're all upset about Christians supposedly doing. I mean, they're doing the exact same thing. I don't know. Does that make sense? It is still an exclusive claim. It's still an evangelistic claim to say, no. All paths up the mountain lead to the same place. Because you're shutting down our faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, the early Roman Empire, when Christianity starts coming around, was a pluralistic society. Everybody had a god, and everyone had to tolerate everyone's god. You could worship Artemis, you could worship Zeus and Athena and whatever. You could worship all these different gods, so long as you worship the emperor, right? So Caesar is Lord. As long as you worship the emperor, In addition, your religion could persist. Christianity comes along and says, Caesar isn't Lord. Christ is Lord. And no, we can't worship the emperor. And now all of a sudden you see that the Caesar is Lord, the very open and pluralistic society is not really very open and pluralistic. You could only be a part of it as long as you subsumed your religion, your God, to the God of Caesar. And when Christians come along and they say, well, no, I'm not going to do that. That would be against my religion. That's when they kill them. They start throwing them to lions. It's the same idea now. It's like, you can have whatever God you want as long as you don't contradict the God that says all of these religions are the same. That no one religion has priority of the other. As soon as you say, no, this is truth. He is the truth, the way, the truth, and the life. All bets are off, and we see how people go after Christianity and attack us and shame us and say all kinds of ridiculous things about us. More and more I see that in the media, and more I see people who, supposedly all these fringe people, and then the more I start to read about them, like there was one guy on NPR, I think, they're trying to turn him into like this sideshow, and I'm like, I still haven't heard him say anything really all that controversial. In fact, now, as I listen to him, I'm realizing that most of what you have said about him was a mischaracterization of him. Maybe not, but that's the way it seemed, There's also this image of, the way they describe religion, this modern view of religion, which I think is fading away, by the way. I mean, this is kind of an old battle. I mean, Tim Keller was fighting this battle in the 90s and the 2000s, but I think, the secular world has kind of moved past it. But there's this idea of an elephant, right? And, there's 5 blind men, and they each have a different piece of the elephant. One has an ear, one has the trunk, one has sort of the body, one has one of the legs, one has the tail, right? And that illustration is then used to say, well, see, they all have a piece, but none of them really has the whole thing, right? That idea is actually just as arrogant and exclusive and all these other things as each of those individuals, right? Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, Taoism, whatever, the statement that they're all just not getting a piece, they're just getting a piece, they're not getting the whole thing, is just as exclusive, just as arrogant, just as like we know and you don't, because it only works if you claim to be the one who can see, right? You're not blind, and you can see that each one of these blind people only has a piece of this larger thing. So you're still saying, I get it and you don't. There's no other way. So let's stop acting like Christians are the only ones doing that. Christians just happen to be the only ones that have history and logic and all of these other things that support it. And we have people like John Lennox, and we have people like Tim Keller, and we have all these other people that do a fantastic job of showing that this is the most reasonable path. And then, of course, it's a person that you actually encounter. There isn't that in other religions, right?
Yeah, it's anytime it's probably John Lennox that's probably said something like this. Anytime you have a truth is an exclusive. So if 1 + 1 = 2,
it can't be 3.
It can't be 3. It can't be 0. It can't be. So it's exclusive. So as soon as you have a truth, and if you believe that Christianity is the truth, then that is the truth. The rest are not.
You've excluded now the others.
You've excluded now the others. So, but if you're the others, then you're also excluding. You can't you can't do them all. You can't have them all because they're not all the truth. There are differences.
They're not even claiming to achieve the same thing.
Right.
Right? There is no heaven in Buddhism. There's none. It's like the goal is just being consumed into the greater, how do they talk about it? Like a drop of water into the ocean. Like you're just consumed. Finally, that's what it is, getting out of the wheel of incarnation, right? Like you're just trying to break free of that. And when you do, it's not like you go to paradise. It's like you're just you don't exist anymore, basically. You're just taken up into the
meld
the universe.
Into the universe, the substance of the universe.
Exactly. So we're not even claiming some of the same things. Even Islam, talking about like heaven, but that's not exactly the Christian goal, which we could spend a lot of time on. We won't do that now, but the idea that Jesus is coming to redeem and restore all of creation. And so we will have creation, not some weird floaty place that's different or separate from the creation, but anyway. So there are people that need Jesus. God has put you in proximity to them somehow in order for them to hear of Jesus. And in order for them to hear of Jesus, you have to allocate resources toward the task. And it starts with time. Is time on your side? Is time on the side of mission in your life? Or is time on the side of the frittering away of time, the wasting of time? Is time on the side of the enemy who wants to take down as many people with him as he can? And if you're objecting because, everybody will be fine. No. Not everyone will just be fine. Jesus has made that abundantly clear. So get busy. Start with the schedule. What are you going to do to make time to be on God's mission? Enough?
That is about covered. I think you covered it.
Only a couple of coughing spells. Nothing too terrible. So time is not on my side at the moment. It's time to go. So remember, taste and see that the Lord is good. Ice cream is sweet. Jesus is sweeter. And let's